Denise and I have been together for 9 years. 9. Time flies when you're in love, right? She's been a receptionist at a bustling car dealership, a place that's more like a family than a bunch of coworkers, a high-spirited, close-knit gang that would gather for barbecues, birthdays, and everything in between. Now, the Denise I knew in the early days of our marriage was an open book. I knew her favorite color, her least favorite chores, and even how she liked her coffee. In turn, she knew my quirks, late-night snack habits, and a tendency to laugh at my own jokes. The relationship we had was built on this mutual understanding and shared life. The routine we established was comforting and predictable. But I noticed some changes as we approached our marriage decade mark. My wife, who had never been a gym rat, began setting her alarm clock for ungodly hours to get a workout. This was no leisurely walk in the park. She was dedicated, pounding away at the treadmill and hoisting weights like a seasoned athlete. That's not all. You know how people are attached to their phones these days, right? I get it. Well, Denise took it to a new level. It wasn't just casual scrolling through social media feeds or texting. Her phone was perpetually in her hands. Even during our date nights, which are once sacred and devoid of distractions, she'd glance at her screen every few minutes. This wasn't a woman I married, or she wasn't acting like her. My gut was sounding alarm bells. You see, I had always prided myself on my intuition, and it was signaling that something was profoundly off-kilter. But what was it? Was it work stress, midlife crisis? Whatever it was causing a ruckus in my head. The most puzzling part was her obsession with fitness. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for leading a healthy lifestyle, but Denise wasn't just dabbling. She was full-on committed, and it made me wonder what or who was motivating this newfound passion. It was an itch at the back of my mind, a nagging question I couldn't shake. Was it just a phase or indicative of something more profound, darker even? So when she dolled up to go to her friend's birthday party, one I couldn't attend because of work commitments, I felt a little uneasy. She looked breathtaking in a new dress, her face glowing with the makeup job that had taken her an hour. So I was home alone on a sad evening, working remotely while my wife, Denise, was off celebrating with her friends. I was okay with it. I trusted her. After all, a healthy relationship needs space to breathe, doesn't it? I was lost in my work when my phone buzzed. A text from Darnell, a coworker from Denise's dealership. This guy isn't my best friend or anything, but we've always been on amicable terms and hung out a few times. His text read, "Hey, can we talk?" Talk about what? My imagination was running wild, but I had to stay focused, so I called him up. "Man, you might want to sit down for this," he said, a sentence nobody wants to hear. What followed was a narrative that was difficult to digest. According to Darnell, Denise had spent quite some time at the party with a man I didn't know. Not just any man, but a man with whom she seemed a little too comfortable. And in the bombshell, he'd caught them kissing. Not just a peck on the cheek, but as Darnell put it, an embrace filled with a passion that I thought was reserved only for me. He had even taken some photos as proof. Man, to say I was heartbroken was an understatement. Although the pictures captured Denise's back, it was unmistakable. The same new dress she'd been so excited to wear, her distinct hairstyle, and the man who was definitely not me. The reality sank in, a painful confirmation of the nagging doubts plaguing me for weeks. It was a devastating blow that had me questioning the foundation of our 9-year marriage. While Darnell's evidence was not courtroom material, it was enough to shatter my trust. But I wasn't ready to confront Denise yet. I needed solid proof which would leave no room for excuses or explanations. My mind was racing at this point. I started weighing my options. Court cases are tricky, especially concerning matters as personal as marital issues. I knew I needed something more, something irrefutable. And so the decision was made. I wouldn't just be the wounded husband. I would be the man who found out the whole truth, no matter how painful it might be. The next step was clear. I had to hire a professional who could uncover the details. I couldn't. After that heart-wrenching revelation, I was determined to get concrete evidence. You wouldn't believe the number of agencies that popped up. They all promised the same thing: discreet service, quick results, and the whole 9 yards. I settled on an investigator who had solid reviews. Hiring a private investigator would be complicated, but it was surprisingly straightforward. He assured me that he'd handled everything with complete confidentiality. I gave him all the details, handed over a few pictures of Denise for identification purposes, and made the down payment. And the balance was due when he was finished. The ball was now in his court. It took the private investigator just 2 weeks to get back to me. I acted as if everything was normal for 2 long weeks, pretending that my trust in Denise was as steadfast as ever. We even celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary, where she gifted me a set of expensive cufflinks, and I gave her a beautiful pendant. Finally, the investigator scheduled a meeting. "Your suspicions were correct," he said, as he opened the file to reveal a series of photos and videos. There was Denise with the same man from the birthday party, at a cozy restaurant, at a park, and even entering a hotel together. The guy didn't work at her dealership, but he was local. But the clincher, the investigator, discovered they'd been seeing each other for over a year. This wasn't a fling, it was a full-blown affair. And then he revealed something that made my skin crawl. The man was also married, but his wife lived states away. So not only had Denise betrayed me, but she was also an accomplice in betraying another innocent person. Not only was this guy married, but his wife didn't live here and he was using the distance to cheat on his wife. What did I do next? Well, before confronting Denise or filing for divorce, I decided to secure my finances. I opened 2 new bank accounts and shifted my funds. I also modified my insurance policies at work, removing her as a beneficiary. All these moves were made in consultation with a divorce attorney I contacted after meeting with the private investigator. So I had the evidence, secured my finances, and met with the divorce attorney. Everything was in place. Denise had no idea what was coming her way. She was still engrossed in her smartphone, leaving early in the morning for her workouts and coming home late. Little did she know that the life we had built together was about to crumble. The attorney advised that I had enough for a fault-based divorce, which would probably work in my favor since I have proof of my wife's infidelity. I had to hire a private investigator. I couldn't put a GPS tracker on her car here in Virginia without her consent. It would have saved me a lot of money, but the investigator was well worth it. I gave the attorney all the evidence the investigator had collected, signed the papers, and then like clockwork, I moved out. While Denise was at work the same day, I packed my essentials and left the keys on the kitchen table. The rest of my stuff, I could always get it later. Where did I go? A buddy of mine had a vacant apartment that he was willing to let me stay in temporarily. So I vanished without a trace. My phone turned off, social media deactivated. After I turned my phone back on, you should have seen the flurry of texts and calls when Denise got home that night. She had no idea what hit her. She called my friends, my family, and even tried to reach me at my workplace, but I was steps ahead. I'd taken a vacation from work, so there was no chance of her finding me there. Days turned into weeks, and eventually she was served with the voice papers. All communication from her end stopped immediately, starkly contrasting the constant messages and calls that filled my voicemail just days before, and then came the divorce hearing. She walked into the courtroom, eyes downcast, not a single word uttered. Her attorney presented a feeble case, attempting to refute the evidence. The judgment was swift. We had no kids and lived in a rental, so property division wasn't complicated. I agreed to let her stay in the rental until the lease was up in a month. I wasn't breaking the lease and ruining my credit, so I just took the loss, but utilities, those were on her now. I had one more card to play that I hoped would end her affair and give her a taste of her own medicine. I found out where her affair partner's wife lived and mailed her an anonymous package. Inside were all the photos, all the videos, everything that private investigator had given me. I also exposed my ex-wife to all my friends, some of her friends. After sending that package to the wife of Denise's affair partner, I expected a reaction. Would she reach out to me? Would it break up their marriage as well? Days turned into weeks and there was complete silence. I never heard a word from her, but soon enough, I didn't need to. The private investigator, who is now more of a buddy than a hired professional, gave me the update. It turns out Denise's affair partner had abruptly ended their relationship. I can't say for sure whether it was due to his wife discovering the affair or some other reason, but whatever bonds they had, they were shattered. As for me, life moved on. I found a new apartment, my job was going great, and the worst chapter of my life seemed closed. Well, that's what I thought. One day, casually browsing through my old emails, I stumbled upon an unread message in my spam folder. The sender was a name I didn't recognize, but the subject line was clear as day. Thank you. Curious, I opened it. The email was from the wife of Denise's affair partner. She had received my package and was thankful for the truth, but had decided to reconcile with her husband. However, she gave me information that I never saw coming. Her husband had ended things with Denise, not because he was caught, but because he discovered that Denise was cheating on him as well with another man. Can you believe it? Cheating on her husband and her affair partner. Denise was indeed something else. Friends and family often ask me if I regret not finding out earlier or the years I spent with Denise. To be honest, I don't. It's a chapter that taught me more than any happy years ever could. I learned about trust, justice, and how to stand up for myself. Last I heard, Denise still lived and worked in the area. I ran into her one morning going to work and didn't say a word. She's a stranger to me now.